The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Live tonight from the Richmond Raceway, LSRTV is with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 7 of the 2018 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto L.L.C. on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. We're tonight from Ridgeway, Virginia. We get racing for tonight's Richmond 180, 7th race of this 2018 FTC campaign, and as we stick with the short track theme, we go racing under the lights tonight for 180 laps. As always, happy that you're spending a Monday evening with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside with Brian Macklin and Chris Murdoch in the LSRTV booth with you. Downstairs is the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramouche, Twisted and Tweaked and Islands, that are bringing us to you this evening. And Brian, it was actually a pretty major point of conversation after the race a week ago at Bristol. The fact that we had just followed up Martinsville and the fact that we were getting another short track here. General consensus is short tracks are fun, but they are a pain because it's just so difficult to get through some of these races. So a lot of drivers have really been dreading this stretch in the season, and it continues here tonight.
Well, the drivers may have dreaded it, but from a fan's perspective and from our perspective, I think it's probably the best stretch of racing that we get to do, because short track racing is always the most exciting racing that you'll ever get to do. And I'm really excited about coming here to Richmond tonight. This is one of my favorite racetracks, if not my very favorite racetrack, and it's going to be a very exciting race. But to your point, as a driver, they've had 2 back-to-back short track races at Martinsville and Bristol. They've had 2 weeks where they're beating and banging with their competitors. They may have made a few rivalries with one another, and they've certainly had some issues with one another. This is going to be their last opportunity to settle any scores they have before they head out to, another big track where they're going to be surrounded by everybody at Talladega next week.
Talladega, I think, can fit in with that conversation as well, Chris. Even though it's not a short track, it is another one of those very difficult tracks to predict. And then, of course, we'll head to Dover after that. So the action doesn't slow down. So if you've gotten a lot of points in these first couple of weeks, you got to count your blessings for that. And as we come into tonight, David Washington is at the top of the RSR Championship standings, 24-point advantage over Daniel Eberhard. Again, the ultimate objective through 20 races on the year is to qualify for the playoffs. But remember, our segment champions, the top 3 people in the finishing order in the points after 10 weeks, get into that cash. Of course, you want to be the segment champion, and that's why we're going to really start to focus in on Washington, Eberhard, and DeMerchant in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to watch those 3 drivers, and they're pretty much all over the place at this track and in this qualifying order. A driver I do want to mention, Andrew Freenar's really good on this short track scene, Evan. We saw him go from the back to the front, from the back to the front multiple times last week at Bristol. He's going to be on the pole here tonight for Richmond, so watch out for that 88 machine.
Keep an eye on the 88 machine, and as we speak of him, let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSRTV starting grid. And it is going to be Mr. Andrew Friedar as your race winner from a week ago at Bristol. He'll start tonight's race for Richmond on pole position with the best qualifying time of a 20.734. Only he and Dylan Jones got below the 20.8, so Jones will start second with a 20.762. They make up the front row on this one. You'll have Michael Guerrilla starting tonight 3rd. Carl Shedd right in the conversation. He starts in 4th, and Spencer Preet rounds out your top 5.
Brandon Bowie will start from the 6th position here tonight, and then right behind him we have Jeff Ward starting in 7th. David Washington will start from the 8th position. Then we have Daniel Eberhard starting 9th, and Kyle Kamer rounds out your top 10.
Tommy Ryan going to be just in the inside behind Eberhard and 11th. Shane Ewing going to be 12th, 13th. Michael Cozy, Lionel Kalisto 14th. Top 15 goes to Dwayne Vincent.
16th position is going to be Daniel Falkenham. He'll join Vincent on row number 8. You take a look back, Sean Castro will start 17th, and Shane Parrish off at the 18th position. And then back on row 10, P19 is Braden Whitaker, and 20th is Scott Walter.
Seth DeMerchant will start from the 21st position here tonight. Then we have Randy Yoakum starting 22nd. Nick Silver will start from that 23rd position. Then we have Colby Buck in 24th, and rounding out the top 25, Dwight Beverly starts 25th.
Drew Adamson and the 82 gonna be 26th. 27th, Eric Stanford. The 00 of Gabe Wood gonna be 28th. 29th, David Comstock, and 30th, Galen Gittman.
31st position as the field begins to roll is going to go to James Ross. Ross Cato will be on his right-hand side, rolling off in 32nd. Brian Chambliss will start tonight 33rd. Andrew T. Jones in 34th. And Mike Taylor will round out your field in the 35th position. And as you look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid, Brian, we talk about the D-shaped oval that is this Richmond Raceway asphalt surface that clocks in at 3/4 of a mile in distance, with banking at 14 degrees in the corners, 8 on the front stretch, and just down to 2 on the back straightaway. Of course, it's that short track under the lights racing mentality that is going to dictate the kind of race we see here tonight as we go racing for 180 laps, which will equate to 135 miles.
It's going to be an absolutely wild race. You're going to see these guys all over each other, much like we've seen the last couple of weeks. And this is one of the more unique short tracks because you have to be very rhythmic around this racetrack. You cannot miss your marks if you want to be fast. The fastest guy in this race tonight is not going to be the one that can hot lap the best. It's going to be the guy that can get into a rhythm and hit his marks lap after lap after lap. I expect you're going to see those drivers at the front of the field before this thing's all said and done.
There's going to be a lot going on between lap 1 and 180, but as always, we're happy that you're spending a Monday evening with us on LSRTV and iRacing Live. The iRacing.com pace car going to make the sharp left-hand turn down the pit lane, and the field is in the hands of the 88 of Andrew Freedars as we go full throttle cup racing from Richmond. Green flag in the air, and we're off and away.
And how about Dylan Jones on the outside there as they go off into turn 1? He actually stayed even with Andrew Freedars until they got to the corner, but he's going to fall in line behind him. Now it's side by side for the 3rd position right behind both of them. You've got Michael Guerrilla and Carl Shedd battling for that position, and they're 2 by 2 right behind them as well. Spencer Preet and Brendan Bowie going at it for those positions behind them.
Bowie in the mix there, that 43 machine up on the outside of the racetrack. It's really 2 sets of 2 by 2. Big thing on these short tracks is to get separated and get some space off of restarts. Anytime you've got groups of cars starting in into the quarter 2 wide and such, Chris, you're in a very difficult position where one mistake can kind of snowball into something bigger. Look at the 17 of Guerrilla. He'll win that fight, so he'll take over the number 3 position rather than defend it. Carl Shedd will stay 4th, and now we'll see if Brendan Bowie can stay up top at a 43 car.
And how about this 43 car of Brandon Bowie doing all he can to hang up on the top side? The inside line is definitely where you want to be here on this start, Evan, but that 43 has proven that you can have some speed on the outside, but it looks like his battle is going to come to pass as it looks like Spencer Preet going to get the run, have the edge on him coming off of 2, but not going to quite clear him just yet as the caution comes out here for the first time at Richmond.
Caution first time tonight. It's going to be early in this one at lap number 4, and a lot of cars are slowed down on the back straightaway. It appears that maybe whatever happened has already been able to clear itself, and I'm thinking it was the 28 machine of Scott Walter. If that's all that it was, I think we're very lucky to go away with that being a yellow. I saw the 28 had a big slide back in the pack and was able to save it. Other than that, I believe it was just Walter.
You are correct. That was the number 28 machine of Scott Walter. Just got turned sideways, and it was enough to trigger the caution. Unfortunately, nobody got caught up in it, so all these guys are able to just slow down and get back into, where they need to be, and hopefully be able to get back up and going here shortly. I don't think we're going to see anybody pitting. It looks like everybody at the front's going to stay out. You might see a couple of stragglers at the back elect to come to pit road. Looks like Tommy Ryan might have made his way in, and a couple other drivers, but this early on, you only have a couple of laps on the tires. You're not going to see these guys want to give up any track position, because when you've got this many cars still on the lead lap, you do not want to go from running up inside the top 10 to possibly being back as far as outside the top 25. So definitely going to see these guys stay out there for a little while.
We saw the same thing, Chris, a week ago from Bristol for the 6th race of the year, the one that we signed to Faridars take home the win in, and a race tonight that he looks to take home the win is how big pit strategy and all of that factored into the race. Early on, everybody was in relative agreement that when those pit stops were going to come, but once we got through about a half to 3/4 of the race, you had all the drivers that had involved in incidents up until that point drop out of the race, and things opened up a little bit down to 15 or so cars in the lead lap. People were able to pit, drop to the back of the pack, but because it was only X amount of cars, be able to get back up front quickly. Ended up being a race ready to boot for Faridars in that regard. So this race could be won or lost on pit lane tonight.
It can, Evan, and like you mentioned, Faridars, he went to the back to get tires every chance he got pretty much at Bristol, but I don't believe he'll be able to do that tonight. You're just carrying way too much speed around here. We saw how the outside works just a little bit there without the lane being in there just yet, without there being grip on the track. Brandon Bowie was able to hold to the outside, so I don't know if he's going to get so lucky to be able to make his way up through the field as fast as he did last week at Bristol. So pit strategy definitely going to be a whole lot more important, especially when we get into the latter stages of this race.
And how quickly we get to that point, obviously, is going to be determined based on what we see in this race. Lap times at Richmond about 5 seconds longer per lap than what we saw at Bristol, but I think the points that we went over last week are still the same, as if you get into a green flag run, and this also ties back in with trying to spread out on a race start. If you can get about 10-15 laps in, the likelihood of getting a caution on that run obviously goes way down because you get separated from one another. Most of the yellows at a racetrack like this are going to come from car-to-car contact as opposed to somebody just getting into trouble on their own. So if you can get spread out, get some real estate, and maybe breathe a little bit is the right way to describe it, then we'll see what we can do as we get set to put 8 laps behind us and take our first restart on the evening. Pace car is going to be in this time. Faridars in control inside of the front row, but he does have a lot more flexibility on a restarts as opposed to the start of the race. He went early, and we're backing away as we take lap 9. Faridars clear for the race lead.
And they are single file through the first 5-6 cars. A little bit of a dive bomb going on back at the middle of this pack right now. As that was the number 98 machine of David Washington going after that 37 of Spencer Preed. He was not able to get to his inside. He gets single file behind him. And now the battle is on between Daniel Eberhardt and looks like Jeff Ward on the outside line. That's a great battle going on. These two have had quite the battle over the last couple of seasons in this series, and they continue at it here.
We see if this continues for some time. Oh, the 45 got a little bit sideways that time off of the quarter, so Shed and Bowie going to continue to duke it out for 4th. Reversed roles, though, this time. On that first run, Chris, it was Bowie who was up top. Looked like he was in a little bit more of a treacherous position. This time he's down low, dealing with the 45 of Shed, who's really doing his best to pinch him down there, fight for that spot, but I'm not sure it's going to work.
Yeah, the 43 on that restart made quick work of the 37. We quickly got to the inside now. Clear Shed for that fourth place position. So move that 43 up a position. Now he's going to try to get up there with Mike Grillia and battle for that 3rd place position. Throughout your top 10, looks like everybody's single file until you get to about 9th and 10th. That's where you're going to see Michael Cozy and Jeff Ward doing battle, and then the 97 of Kalisto and the 8 of Cameron doing battle behind them. So as you get farther down in the pack, you see drivers being a little bit more aggressive, trying to get the positions while they can here while they're on fresh tires.
That's the other thing you have to keep in mind, is that sense of urgency early. That's why sometimes it's a lot easier said than done when you mention trying to spread out, especially though early in these races. At a racetrack like this, where qualifying times can be so tight, you'll definitely have some drivers who maybe out-queued the race pace and vice versa. First about a third of the race or so, I think, is really where we see that come to filter. You know, drivers cycle up and on throughout the field, and everybody ends up where they quote-unquote maybe should be running. But we are single file top to bottom inside of the top 10. Doesn't mean that none of these fights are ongoing, but to find some side-by-side, you got to go way back to the 02. Dwight Beverly, who last time by the line was in 22nd. Oh, there's a spinner. Seth the Merchant is around. Caution flag is out. He'll save it. Great job to keep that Chevy out of the wall, and I think that might have been what triggered the yellow.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened to him right there. He was going down the straightaway, and it looks like maybe he got a piece of the wall, and it just upset the car, and it turned him sideways, and then he just maybe overreacted a little bit to try to get that car going in the right direction. But another great job by all the guys around him to not get into him and cause a bigger wreck than that could have been. I mean, that had potential to take out 6 or 7 cars because of where he started doing that on the racetrack. So very lucky for everybody around him. I do believe this time, though, Evan Pasoko, we might see some of these guys on pit road.
Yeah, second quick yellow. Both the yellows tonight so far have gotten for cars going sideways and then recovering. So a little bit of light yellow flags early on in this race. And Brian, you are right. This is going to bring drivers down pit road. Farinar's in first. Jones, Guerrilla, Bowie, and Seth to the top 5. Chris, first time down pit road for service tonight.
Yeah, going to be watching your leader of Andrew Freenars, the Aegis driver, coming down to the pit stall. We'll see how many tires. I'm going to assume 4 fresh tires, and off and away. You can see the right sides go up just behind him on the 11 car, so maybe a faster pit stop for this 11 machine. But the 43 looks to be on 2 tires. Brandon Bowie out of pit road pretty quickly, and then they all head for the gates and try to get out in front of everybody else. But how about Brandon Bowie? A 2-tire strategy stop is going to put him on the top of the board.
So tonight sit it out, and he's going to be able to maintain the running order. Not everybody, though, going to be in agreement to Brian. Obviously, there's always going to be somebody who stays out. Even if, 16 laps in, you are talking about a decent enough amount of tire wear to warrant it. I don't think you'd ever get everybody agreeing on what the call is going to be, unless, of course, we don't have any fuel left. So things are going to shake up a little bit up front. The 67 looks like if Casto is going to be the first one to pull that trigger, or rather not to pull the trigger. He'll stay out, go from about mid-pack all the way up to the race lead. Looks like Silver, Ron, Yoakum, and Walter also going to be the drivers who decide to not come down for service. And then it would be Brandon Bowie in the 43 machine who decided to go with just the 2 tires, who would be the first car with some fresh rubber.
Obviously, if you are the guys that were already at the front of the field, you don't want to see these guys staying out. But I personally like this call. If I'm Sean Casto, if I'm Nick Silver, if I'm any of these guys that like to stay out, and even if I'm Brandon Bowie who took 2 tires, get this out of your way now, because if it ends up not working out, you want to know now that it's not going to work. That way you have the entire race still to recover from it. Whereas also on the other side of it, if it's going to work to your advantage, you want to know early that, okay, this is an option later in the race. I can stay out, or I can take 2 tires, and I might actually be able to hold on to this thing. So this is a good call for these drivers. I think it's going to be very exciting on the restart, and I can't wait to see how it plays out for everybody.
We'll see the dynamic of the 2 tires, the 4 tires going up against the no tires, but it is going to be a fresh name up at the front of the field. Sean Casto on the inside of the front row is going to control this restart. He'll have the 24 Nick Silver, who started in the 20s just 19 laps ago. Alongside him in the number 2 position, the Oculus Ford, though Casto waits a lot longer than what we saw Farinars do last time, and he'll still lead to the line, contested by Silver, but the 2-4 will tuck in line, single file, top 3, and then 3 wide behind. It's Yoakum forced out high. Look at Farinars.
Freenars doing exactly what he did at Bristol last week. Evan not wasting any time as a caution comes out once again, and maybe the 3 wide came back to bite these drivers. Not a lot of patience there, but everybody's slowing down drivers sideways. Caution out on the speedway.
Not surprised that I was in it. It was Randy Yoakum, one of the drivers who had stayed out, who immediately got forced out 3 wide, almost got taken out by the 28 machine into the quarter of Walter, and then just got run out of space. I'm not sure the 9 could have gone any higher, and I think the 28 machine was spending a little bit too much time looking back on a Guerrilla, squeezed the 9 up into the wall, and those 2 cars will slide along the rail down into quarter number 3. I thought that one, Brian, I was going to look back and see big junk. It is a yellow, but somehow only 2 cars involved in that one after a crazy restart.
Hey, it's amazing. We're at a short track where everybody is bottled up on top of each other, and we've had 3 cautions in this race, and we've only had a couple of cars really involved. The first 2, nobody got any damage, and in this one, there's only a couple of guys that are going to come away with a little bit of damage. So very impressive by all these drivers to be able to avoid the wrecks and keep themselves out of trouble, and very nice for them. But this is something that Sean Casto kind of wanted to see. He wanted to get a heat cycle on these tires, albeit it was only about a half a lap, but it puts a heat cycle on the guys that have a fresh set of tires, and it might actually equal out for these drivers so that they're not at a disadvantage when we go back green the next time by.
That's something as well that we'll keep an eye on just to track the progress of those on fresh tires. I don't think Friedars wanted that yellow because he was coming at a blistering pace. He lucked out on that restart, Chris, because the 43 took the strategy call on pit road 2 tires to gain the track position. He only gained, well, for him ended up being about 3 positions, but it only cost Friedars 1. But Bowie was on the outside of row 3 and kind of boxed in. Friedars was the one who made all of that 3 wide by swooping down to the inside on the 28 machine in front of him and powering up front. He probably would have been in the race lead, but the time he got close to the end of that lap, but the yellow flag did come out, so he'll be 4th, and now he'll be kind of stuck up on the outside of the racetrack. Guerrilla now in a good spot inside of the next row, and then Bowie there as well.
And it goes back to what Brian said earlier, you know, with pit strategy. Try to, you know, mess with your pit strategy now while we're, you know, 23 laps in, completed 23 laps, and see what works, see what doesn't. Now all these drivers that are up front, the Casto, the Silver, the Rhine, who are all looking in their mirror and seeing a mirror full of that 88 machine, now know that, oh wait, 4 tires do matter here, and we're gonna need those, because now the 88's up in 4th and breathing down their neck, and I feel like he's gonna be in 1st before this lap is over.
Well, they definitely know they're keeping an eye on Friedars out the back end. Expect Casto maybe to shake things up on that jump that he gets. Again, has the opportunity to restart this race from when the pace car heads down pit road to obviously when the green flag actually comes out at the exit of the restart box. At that point, everybody else good to go. He waited a long time, though. Silver did a very good job of sticking with him. So we'll see if the 67 mixes it up or if he figures somebody will be expecting just that and maybe decide to stick with the same call. Pace car in. 24 laps down. Casto holds him back about as long as he did last time. It's a very slow restart for the 67, and it's going to pit everybody tight on the bumpers to turn 1.
And that's not what Andrew Friedars wanted to see, is he's going to get bottled up, much like we saw Bowie on the last restart. Nowhere to go for Friedars. He's trying to squeeze to the outside of Tommy Ryan, side by side for that 3rd position, side by side behind them as well. And Nick Silver is going to try to hold the outside line as well, trying to hold back the 88 as they come off the corner. Still, this looks like they're still pacing here, but now they're under green as they go down in the water.
See if everybody's going to be okay. Casto clear for the race lead. Tommy Ryan up the inside. You can see the 24 is Silver, one of the drivers who didn't pit. He's holding up Friedars on the outside of the racetrack, and he can't simply just go down low like he was able to when he was on the inside of the racetrack and forcing a 3 wide by putting yourself up top against the wall. Probably not something he wants to do. He has to really slow down for the 24 in the corner. And again, Silver's doing everything he can. He'll get a shot from Spencer Preet. It's getting dicey out there in the top 5.
Yeah, and this is exactly the opposite of what Friedars wanted on that restart. Made me eat my words, Evan, because Casto was able to hold the restart and pull away to a little bit of a gap. Now he's got Tommy Ryan looking back in the rear view mirror trying to get, and then right behind him, Michael Guerrilla. Guerrilla going to look to the inside of Ryan to take that 2nd spot. Guerrilla on fresh tires here, so looking to make quick work of that 99. Going to be side by side as they cross the line.
Side by side, they still run. 17 to Guerrilla on the inside of the racetrack. The 99 to Tommy Ryan up top. Outside of the racetrack, Brian, really hasn't been the best place to be so far tonight. We know that it's only going to get better as the night goes on, and some rubber gets put down and some heat gets put into this racetrack. But I'll tell you what, the 99 and Ryan's doing a pretty good job up there. And not only is this the fight again for the number 2 spot, but they're sticking right there with 67 to Casto. So despite the fact they're fighting, they're not letting him get away quite yet as the 17 looks to complete the move.
And it looks like Guerrilla is finally going to get that move completed. And as I say that, here comes Tommy Ryan fighting back on the outside once again as he tries to stay even with him. But it looks like finally the 17 might have the advantage. And now he looks low on the 67 rather, of Sean Casto to go for that race lead. He's on the bottom. Can he make it work? Looks like Casto slid up the track a little bit in the middle of the corner. And now as they go down the backstretch, he's going to get into the wall a little bit. And they check up. It looks like Tommy Ryan might have got into the back of him. And to the lead for the first time tonight, Michael Guerrilla in that 17 machine.
And it looked like Casto braked early. Not sure if that was the case or not, but the 99 machine gave him a little bit of a tap at the back end. That one could have been a lot worse than it ended up being. It is going to be Guerrilla to the race lead. The 90 Everhart in 2nd. Casto now going to get down to that yellow line and try to protect 3rd. First battle on track, 4th and 5th. It's the 88 machine of Friedars and the 99 of Tommy Ryan. So 4 fresh tires on the 88. 88, and I told you he wanted the inside. Look at that dive, trying to get to the inside of Casto, and the 67's not technically blocking, but he's only giving him just enough space. The 88 couldn't do it that time.
Can't get by him that time. Meanwhile, in front of them, the 90 of Daniel Eberhardt and Michael Guerrilla look to do battle for the lead. Eberhardt made quick work of Casto as Casto was trapped on the outside and really made his way up to the 17 of Guerrilla. He was on his back bumper, but Guerrilla has been able to pull away a little bit, maybe used up a little bit too much of that rubber on that 90 machine to try to get up there and complete those passes. A steady gap for the 1 and 2 position. Meanwhile, back throughout the back behind them, 2x2 of Freenar's inside of Casto. Casto doing everything he can to hang on the outside, but not going to be enough. The 88 going to clear him for third. Now back behind them, the 37 of Spencer Preet and the 99 of Tommy Ryan.
Ryan still up on the outside. Seems that Northern Tool and Equipment Chevrolet just can't catch a break, and well, there might be one. Caution flag is out. Battle for the race lead was about to be inbound, but there is a car slow on the front straightaway. It is the 97 of Lionel Callisto, and we're going to go into yellow flag conditions once more. Get a second look at this one on the LSRTV replay, Brian. A little bit of help, but I'm talking about the slightest bit of contact, but looked like that one of Falkenham got a little bit tight, pushed up into the 97, and Callisto did a great job of keeping it out of the fence. Another good save, but that's the third time tonight a save really has triggered a yellow.
And Callisto was doing exactly what he needed to do to try to defend that position. He was pinching Daniel down. He was trying not to give him any room coming up off the corner so that he could get the good run off and be able to clear him down the front straightaway. The problem is when you get tight on the bottom like that, that's what's going to happen. You slide up the racetrack, you get into the door of the guy you're trying to race with, and unfortunately you go for a little bit of a slide. But like you said, he was able to keep it off the wall, kept it out of the way of all the other competitors, and other than losing some track position and needing a new set of tires, he's going to be okay.
So pit stops in effect once more, about double the run of what we had seen the last couple of times. So at lap number 38 now, race leaders are back down to pit road. The 4 tires were very good for Faridars, but he didn't have enough green flag laps to do something with them. So does he decide to go with that same call, or are we going to see somebody else take the 2-tire route only? Faridars in, third car down. Right side tires are going to go up, but I think the right call for somebody with a car like his that is just so good is to go with those 4 tires. Race off for the pit lane is going to be the same as they came in. Guerrilla, Eberhardt, and Farinars hold their positions.
I think a lot of people learned some information from those last round of pit stops of nobody messing around with the tire strategy. All of them came down 4 fresh tires back out on the racetrack the same way they came in, which is good for Freenars because he's going to have that track position sitting in third as this restart gets ready to go underway.
And the one thing to take away from all of that as well is the fact that on the last cycle of pit stops, we saw about 5-6 cars decide to stay out. Well, all of those drivers obviously needed to come down to pit road, Brian. They were pushing nearly 40 laps on the tires and fuel, so everybody was in that time. You don't see that all that often at short tracks, but everybody agreed that that was the time.
Well, there was enough laps on the tires for everybody at that point where it was time to come in and get a fresh set of tires and just kind of get a reset for everybody, because that run right there was pretty insane from top to bottom. You had a lot of action going on, and you could definitely see the difference between the guys on older tires and the guys that were on tires from pitting on that most recent caution. So I think everybody knew that the tires were the way to go in this situation. And the one thing I do want to point out is that there was a pretty big loser in all of that, and that was Brandon Bowie, because he was running up inside the top 5 when he made that 2-tire call. When this caution came out, he was back in the 11th position. Now he's since moved back up to 8th because of his pit stops, so he's getting a little bit of his track position back, but it certainly was not in his favor when he made that 2-tire call.
That's what we've seen to this point. Lights are back out on top of the pace car, so we're going to get set to go back at green flag conditions in this race once more. 40 down, still 140 to go, a long way from home tonight from the Richmond Raceway. So Guerrilla now gets his first look at it controlling on a restart. He was your race leader at the time of the yellow. He had Farinars all over him. But this time now, they're all going to be on some even strength play. The 17 on the gas. Green flag is back in the air, and he does a good job of taking it off. Here comes Farinars from back on row 2, paddling for second.
And you can see that side-by-side battle going on right behind him as you got Daniel Eberhardt, Andrew Freenars going at it for that second and third position. Freenars on the bottom, Eberhardt on the top, and we have a caution once again here at Richmond, and it looks like the 4 machine of Braden Whittaker is around on the backstretch. Contact with the 0-2 machine coming off the corner sent him down into the inside wall to bring out another caution here tonight.
I talked about the car-to-car contact, but this one really started as what would have been a single car incident out of the way. It was the 0-2 machine, I think, up top with White Beverly, who just got all kinds of sideways, and, well, that Patriot Fire Chevy was at quite the askew angle, and instead of himself going off into the inside wall, he kind of uses the 4 machine as the bumper on a bumper car to hang on, but unfortunately, that sends Whittaker into the inside wall, and it's quite a tough hit for the 4. That's going to be a lot of damage. Back under yellow, what we'll do is we'll take an opportunity to take a break of our own, step aside, go LSRTV non-stop so you don't miss a moment of the action. Back for the restart on the other side. You're watching Full Throttle Cup Series Racing at LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Back live from the virtual Richmond Raceway. Lights back out on top of the pace car. We go through the motions with another restart. Due up 45 down. A long way to go in tonight's Richmond 180. 7th race on this 2018 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto L.L.C campaign. Happy that you're back with us. LSRTV and our Racing Live. Green flag in the air. That's Michael Gorelli up front. A lot better of a jump this time. And it's going to be the same song and dance though for second. Freenars utilizing the inside line to get up next to Daniel Eberhardt. Can't clear him though. The Donnie holds strong in a fight for second.
A great battle going on between these two drivers, and now you're going to see Daniel Eberhardt slide in behind Andrew Freenars and directly in front of Spencer Pre to hold on to that position, and now the battle's on right behind them. You got Tommy Ryan and Sean Casto renewing their battle from earlier on. They are side by side, and right there coming up through the middle of these guys is David Washington on that number 98 machine. He's trying to find his way to the front as he's on the bottom trying to pass Sean Casto as they work into 3.
Doing whatever he can to get by that 67 to Casto, who's still up top. Boo's tucked in on behind the 67. Inside line's open, though. Just as I would have expected, Bowie makes that transition down low, and he'll get up against that yellow line, which seems to be where everybody wants to be. He's able to get down in front of Cozy, but even Casto up there in the 67, even though this restart, Chris, might not work all that well in his favor. I said a great night working from the high teens into the top 10. Might slip out of it if all of the cars on the inside here get by, and that's the problem. Once one gets on you, they can all start to stack up. Casto's looking for a hole, and we'll see if he can slide in somewhere.
Not looking like the case. He's right now side by side with the 98 of David Washington, so he did fall back quite a bit. Looks like he's gonna have a hole. Meanwhile, up front with the battle for the lead that's been shaping up since we took the green flag, Freenar's gonna be looking to the inside, not gonna have anything there. Michael Guerrilla able to hold him off for the moment. You got Michael Guerrilla, Andrew Freenar's, Daniel Eberhardt, your top three.
And how about 3 wide for the race lead? Eberhardt down low. Guerrilla's going to drop out of that from way up top. Eberhardt's the one who swung low. He'll get tight off for the corner. And all of that essentially acts as a pick. And Andrew Freenar's made the initial move on the inside of Guerrilla. He'll end up as your race leader in this one. As we take lap number 52 in the works tonight, Guerrilla going to drop maybe to third, if not furthermore, because Eberhardt on the inside, who again tried to get 2 birds with 1 stone, went way up the bottom, is still stuck fighting for second. The 17, I'll tell you what's being stubborn about this one, doesn't want to give up. I think, though, Eberhardt in a very good spot, and he gets him off of the corner.
And he didn't want to give up that position, but he had no choice but to concede that position to Daniel Eberhardt and fall in line in that 3rd position, or he was going to give up a handful more positions, because he's got Spencer Preet, Tommy Ryan, David Washington, and Brandon Bowie hot on his heels. And if he didn't get down to the bottom of the racetrack, those were all guys that were going to make their way around him very shortly. So it's now single file up through most of this top 10 right now. These guys are just trying to get into a rhythm, which I talked about before the race started here tonight. That's what this track is all about. You get into a rhythm, you hit your marks, and you're going to go to the front. And that's exactly what we have seen out of that 88 machine of Andrew Freenar's here tonight. Once we've had a couple of laps on the tires, he has just been that guy. He gets to the bottom of the racetrack, he does exactly what he needs to do, and as a result, he is driving away from these guys. He's already opened that lead up to almost 7/10. Actually, it is 7/10 of a second now, and he just continues to drive away from these guys. It just looks like he's got a very fast car here tonight.
The very difficult thing to fight against. Sometimes you've got it, and I think that the likes of Freenar's been able to find himself as well, all the way back up to the race lead, 7/10 in front of Eberhardt, who's also got a very good race car, falls into that category. It's been a couple of different streaks so far this year in this Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Both Daniel Eberhardt and David Washington have 2 wins apiece as they alternated from Atlanta all the way through Martinsville. We haven't seen somebody go back-to-back yet. Freenar's is looking to become the 3rd different multi-race winner just 7 weeks into the season, but looking to be the first back-to-back winner, albeit a long way to go. But if you can stay out of trouble with a race car that fast, I like the odds.
I do like the odds as well. We're going to take a look back through the field. Not too much going on throughout your top 10, but a battle for the 11th place position. David Comstock going to make his way around the 00 of Gabe Wood. That is your closest really battle on track. You can see Gabe Wood try to get back to the back bumper of the 42, but not going to be enough. Freenar's opening up a sizable gap over his teammate Daniel Eberhardt. Nothing too much going on. Everybody just riding around trying to log some green flag laps here tonight at Richmond.
And maybe trying to spread things out as well. Maybe looking to put a little bit of a run on. And for all the incidents, you think you look at the yellow flag number, Brian, you might expect that there's a good amount of cars beat up in this race. There's only one driver right now not running on the lead lap. That's Andrew T. Jones, who is 6 laps down, and a very clean-looking 64 Chevrolet. Other than that, we still have 34 cars on the lead lap. Only one driver's off of the lead lap, but no drivers have dropped out of this race so far through 60 laps as we close in on being not all that far away from halfway home now and looking to maybe get that separation and get some green flag laps in here.
And, you know, that's very impressive considering we're at a short track where you would expect cars to fall out of the race fairly quickly. For us to be 61 laps into this race and still have everybody on track and everybody but one driver on the lead lap, that's, as you said, that's very impressive for this deep into the race. And it's really a testament to how good all of these drivers are. And we have a nice little battle going on right now. And we have a caution. As soon as we say that, we have a wreck on the racetrack that's going to bring these guys back to a slow. And, oh, we've got a lot of tore-up race cars on the backstretch now. Looks like the number 9 machine was caught up in that, Randy Yoakum, and a handful of other guys, Lionel Callisto as well.
Well, we just talked about how we've been fortunate enough to not have any major incidents, and we've got a good amount of torn-up race cars that are back straightaway. They were 3 wide. It was a two-way battle, really, the 9 and the 97, and that 89 machine of Jeff Ward went down low. It's fair game. You swing real high off of the corners, and that left that inside wide open, and they were okay into the corner, and the 97 just a little bit too tight on the 89 of Jeff Ward. I don't know if Ward was sideways and loose, or if he was tight, Chris, and pushed up, but somehow he ended up stepping up a lane, and I mean just clipped the 97 of Lionel Callisto, who bounced off of the wall and, well, in front of a pack of cars, collected a few others.
Yeah, it looks like just a little bobble out of that 89 machine is enough to cause a bunch of chaos here on the back straightaway. A hard hit for Lionel Callisto, and just when you get into that, it's just typical short track racing. Nowhere to go for those few drivers that were up front or up in that battle with those guys. You can see people coming to complete stops just to get by that Cato in the 64, coming to a stop of Andrew T. Jones. So very unfortunate for those drivers in the first big accident we've had tonight.
We did have another incident up there in 3 and 4. 2 cars were involved in that one. Again, the big problem here is obviously when Callisto comes off of the wall, he collects a handful of other drivers. We did see pit stops. There was no surprise there. 4 tires and fuel was the call, and it was Freenars and Eberhardt in and out 1-2. Spencer Preet, though, does pick up a spot, so he'll end up 3rd. The drivers who came out of pit road should say, but there is one lone driver that has stayed out and not pitted, Brian, and that's the 82 of Drew Adamson, who started this race in 26th, and that's kind of the same group of cars that made up almost all of those 6 drivers who stayed out early on in this race when we saw our race leaders come down for the first time. He did not decide to stay out earlier. This time, he's the only one who does.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little surprised by this decision because of how many laps we had on the tires this most recent run. This was not a short run like we had in the first stretch of the race. We had a good about 15 laps or so on the tires this time, so almost 20 laps actually, rather. So definitely an interesting call on the part of this driver right here. See how it works out for him. But the one thing I wanted to touch on right before that caution came out was that we were about to see these guys begin moving up the racetrack. I had seen the 17 of Michael Guerrilla starting to search around. He had moved up on his corner entry and was then shooting the car down the racetrack coming off the corner to get a good straight run up off the corner. If we get enough laps on these tires, you're going to see these guys moving up. I know in the Xfinity car last night, we were running up against the wall after 35 laps, so it's definitely possible if we get a long enough run.
And that's the key, though, is you have to be able to get through that treacherous area of still having cars close to one another while those tires start to wear, where you do see the drivers moving up and down the racetrack while still battling for position. If you get a little bit longer, doesn't matter if the tires start to wear out, because that's going to cause a lot more separation, but it's that middle point, that middle ground, if you will, when the tires are getting old, while we're still having all of those battles off of the restarts, guys trying to get exactly what they can, and they feel like obviously a restart, everybody's grouped up, it might be the better opportunities to do so. That's how you get some of the incidents that we've seen so far here this evening. But restart due up, but again, it's going to be another different face up front. Drew Adamson going to be in control for this one in the 82 Chevy. Freenars is going to be outside of the front row, so this could maybe set up the body of Eberhardt to repay what the 88 did to him, slide up the inside. It all depends on if Adamson can get going or not. Going to be a slow roll off of turn 4. Green flag is in the air. See if Freenars can sneak by high. Look at the crossover to the inside. Adamson tries to block, can't do it, and Freenars just like that back in front.
Yeah, but for how long? Because here comes Daniel Eberhardt to the inside for the lead down in turn 3. He got a great run coming up off of turn 2. That's going to allow him to get door to door with Andrew Freenars as they come to the stripe. It looks like Freenars will lead at the stripe, but it wasn't by much. And now the battle continues to be on as they're 3 wide behind them as Drew Adamson gets shuffled out, and he is just trying to look for a place where he's not going to get turned.
All you're hoping for is just trying to find a way to get out of the way, and well, we've seen drivers get forced up 3 wide, that not work. Adamson is going to drop, but again, if you don't drop all the way back to where you were running, maybe the 82 can call it a success. Didn't lead for much more than 5 seconds. That was Farinars, who was initially looking high. I think Adamson saw that, tried to go up top to protect, and so much speed, Farinars sliced to the bottom, took it away from him. Eberhard almost did the same thing then to Farinars moments later, unable to do so. So it is going to be the 88 and then the 91 too. Bowie, Preet, and Ryan 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, and Farinars gets a huge bobble going through the corner. That's going to allow the 90 of Eberhard to close in some of that speed, but still able to keep it going in a sizable gap between that 88 and 90. Awesome driving and awesome save by that 88 to keep it going, keep up the speed, and maintain that lead. Meanwhile, behind them, behind him, I should say, Brandon Bowie slowly but surely catching the 90 of Eberhard. Should I say fastly catching the 90 of Eberhard. Now got a huge run out of turn 2, down into 3. He's going to be on the back bumper of Eberhard coming out of 4. Maybe going to be looking for a move in a battle for that second place shaping up.
And the 90 of Eberhard doing a good job of tucking 2 tires on the apron there, helping to rotate, protects, I should say, for the time being. Finding a little bit deeper in the top 10, that's the 77, Michael Cosi Jr., who's been one of the drivers to work their way up. But how about that 42 of David Comstock? Seems weird that we wouldn't really talk about Comstock until about 72 laps into a race. Started way back in 29th position, but has cracked the top 10 for the first time. And if Cosi can't beat out the 98 of Washington in that fight for position, watch for the 42 to go low and try to join in as well.
And Comstock is coming from the back. He started all the way back in 29th here tonight, and he is battling up, trying to get past these guys as you see the side-by-side battle going on in front of him. And Comstock actually got a little tight coming off turn 4, moved up the racetrack, and has allowed Sean Castor to get to his inside. And now they get bottled up in the middle of the corner, and Comstock has to check way up, and he's going to give up at least 2 spots as a result of it, as it looks like Gabe Wood and Nick Silver are going to be able to get by. Nick Silver actually still battling with that 42 machine, trying to get by him, but that's going to cost the 42 of Comstock several positions. And now they get a little spread out, and looks like Comstock's going to get back in line, but he's going to go from running, I think he was 8th, all the way back to 11th.
You can see the 42 machine looked like it got a little bit floaty up and off of the corner of the back end. It was really light on both he and Nick Silver's cars, and they were awfully close to one another. One of those hold your breath moments. Everything's going to be okay. And the Comstock trying to get down low on the double O with Gabe Wood, just unable to make that position stick. Didn't have enough speed coming out of the corner, so Wood relatively easily hangs on. So Comstock drops out of the top 10, but is right on the doorstep. I expect he should be able to maybe make something work with Gabe Wood. These two drivers have seen a lot of each other, though. Wood started in 28th, Comstock started in 29th, and they run 10th and 11th respectively right now. So it has been a group effort maybe by these two working through the field together. Relatively same strategy as well to get to where they are, and look like they still have more positions to be gained as they both have pretty sporty race cars.
Yeah, they've been able to work together and work their way up through the field. Now you can see Gabe Wood quickly close in on that 67 of Casto. Gonna look towards the inside, maybe put the nose there, and he does. Gonna be side by side with Casto. Is he gonna be able to hold it? He will not be able to hold it. The 67 will clear him. So look at David Comstock take advantage of that, move his way up to the outside, and a huge run from Comstock off of the corner to take 2 birds with 1 corner there. Evan, what a move.
Exactly what you want to do, and on the outside of the racetrack, I think probably the most impressive part out of all of it. Most drivers have been trying to avoid up top. Look at this. Now he'll slice to the inside and right back where we were before. He was trying to get around Cosi until that 77 got loosened up, and well, as we saw, the 42 lost a couple of positions from avoiding getting into a little bit of a dust up there. Now he's back on Cosi. Look how he's taking the quarters though, Brian. The 77 to Cosi, very obviously calm and collected through the corner, but about the same distance from the bottom of the racetrack all the way through. Enters about a lane up and exits about a lane up. But when Comstock was by himself, went way high center and almost sliced off of the edge there, ducked low and diamonded it, and it really gave him a huge run on the straights.
And it it worked to it worked to perfection for him until he got to the inside of that 77 of Michael Cozy, and now you see he's down on the bottom of the racetrack, and Cozy is able to hold him off running that outside line. He's seen what Comstock was able to do. He elected to just hold his line and make Comstock find a way around him, but now you see that Comstock's clear again. He goes back to that middle groove, tries to get a straight shot off the corner, gets a great run, and he's going to have to move to the inside line once again if he wants to take that shot. Instead, he's actually going to stay in line, and he's going to go high down in 3 and 4 this time to see if maybe he can get to the outside of him, and that's exactly what's going to happen as he goes to the outside of Cozy and makes the pass to move into the 8th position. That was patience that really paid off for the 42, and it allowed him to get around that 77 machine, and now he can try to move ahead and try to catch the guys in front of him.
Going to be a race tie back up to P8. He did lose substantial time to David Washington, who's in a fight with Tommy Ryan. The 9-9 and the 9-8 do it, and, well, Tommy Ryan really didn't look like he wanted to put up much of a fight there. He saw the 9-8 of Washington get to the inside of the racetrack, and the 99 machine didn't bother. The pinch kind of just let him go, and again, if this works into a long green flag stretch, probably the better strategic move on behalf of Ryan. So Washington picks up a spot to 6. The point I was going to make there, Chris, though, is that Comstock was able to drop from about 8th or so back to 11th and immediately get those spots back. The part where he really loses out now is he's about 7/10 of a second behind Ryan. That's really showing you how much time he lost from that mistake. So I think he's got a race car that can do it. But Tommy Ryan last time by, though, a little bit quicker than the 42 at Comstock. The 42 still taking that unique line, and Cozy, who's tucked in behind him, is starting to mimic him a little bit, see if he can get it to work for him. But Comstock's going to have to work now on a little bit of clean air to get all the way up to Ryan. Slower, though, for a second lap in a row within the 99 in front of him.
And yeah, Evan, those tiny little mistakes are going to be proven to be costly over the course of a run, especially this green flag run, because we're quickly taking away the laps here at Richmond. So Comstock making that tiny little mistake going to cost him a lot of time, a lot of positions, and it's really showing here because we're under 100 laps to go now here at Richmond, which means you're going to have to minimize those small mistakes because those small mistakes can turn into big ones. Meanwhile, up front we've had a position swap. Michael Corellia quickly got around Spencer Preet to move him up to 4th, and then everybody else is single filed out through the top 10. Your closest battle in the top 10 going to be the 00 of Gabe Wood and the 77 of Cozy. They've been going at it for a while. Wood going to get in the wall off the back on the back stretch there. Going to be looking to the inside off 4, and the 77 going to shut the door. Gabe Wood, how long does he wait behind Cozy before he starts using the bumper? Because you know the frustration has to be setting in.
Well, and the other thing is I think Cozy's kind of tempted him, not intentionally, but right there. The 77 I mentioned was taking that Comstock line. It leaves the inside wide open. So Gabe Wood's going to go to the inside here, but Cozy's still taking about the same line that he did. The L.L.O's going to push him up, but again, that's still the line Cozy wants. So it's almost like dangling bait in front of a fish there. Is the line that you want to go is open. The inside's wide open, go for it, but the 77 is still in his preferred line, so Wood's going to have a lot of trouble passing Cozy down low, quite contrary to what we would have said 90 laps ago.
While that was going on, David Comstock was able to catch and pass Tommy Ryan for that 7th position. He was able to just go to the bottom of the racetrack and make quick work of that number 99 machine, and now he's got a little bit of time to make up about 1.1 seconds to get up to the David Washington machine, but slowly starting to march his way up through this field. Was all the way back in the 11th about 20 laps ago, and he's now climbed up to 7th, and he just continues to pick away at these guys lap after lap after lap.
And with that being said, 91 laps down, we're past the halfway point tonight. From Richmond Raceway, let's take a look at our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing by NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Global Rallycross, and so many more. I lap number 93, Andrew Friedars is leading your pole sitter up front. He's had a little bit of an eventful evening with some pit strategy, but he is all the way up front, 1.5 seconds in front of Daniel Everhart, who's going to be in a fight for second here. Brandon Bowie in third, wants Adam. The Nani blocks for the time being. Michael Corellia just behind in 4th, and Spencer Preet rounds out your top 5. David Washington's in the number 6 spot. David Comstock, as we just mentioned, is moved up to 7th. He's one of our bigger movers tonight at plus 22 spots so far. Tommy Ryan behind in 8th. Michael Cozy in 9th, and Gabe Wood rounds out your top 10.
And Dylan Jones, who started on the front row, he's running 11th right now, not having the night we expected him to have. Sean Castro sits in the 12th position. Then Nick Silver is 13th. Dwayne Vincent runs 14th. Then we have Seth DeMerchant running in that 15th position right now. Shane Ewing is 16th. Then we have Shane Parrish in 17th. Galen Gidman runs 18th. And Carl Shedd, another one of those drivers, started up in the 4th position. He's fallen all the way back to 19th as of right now. And then we have Jeff Ford, another guy, started 7th. He's fallen back to 20th.
The one of Daniel Folkingham going to be 21st, 22nd, Colby Buck, Eric Stanford 23rd, James Ross 24th, Ross Cato 25th, 26th, Kyle Cameron 27th, Drew Adamson 28th, Mike Taylor, Brian Chambliss 29th, and Scott Walter in P30.
And then continuing on through the field here, final car on the lead lap in 31st position. That is going to be the 4 of Brandon Whitaker. 1 lap down, P32 is the Don of Randy Yoakum. 2 laps down in 33rd position is Lionel Kalisto. Andrew T. Jones, 5 laps down in 34th. He's gotten a lap back since we last checked in with him, and we finally have had our first car go behind the wall. 35th and last in the running order is Dwight Beverly. He is the only car that has gone behind the wall tonight. That's been a look at your iRacing midweight race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And if you're looking to sign up for a first-time iRacing membership, go to iRacing.com/membership. All new memberships are up to 40% off. It means that you can get yourself started with a basic 3-month iRacing subscription. It includes all of the content that you need to get your sim racing career started 3 months for less than $5. Again, all of those are valid on new memberships only, and you can find out more information at iRacing.com/membership. There's a wreck in front of the race leaders, and it is Drew Adamson. The 82 car saw it flash out of the corner of my eye, mainly because Andrew Freenar's race leader was about 5 feet from getting taken out in that one, and we're under yellow at lap 100.
Man, that was a scary wreck for all of the race leaders, especially Andrew Freenars, but Daniel Eberhardt and Brandon Bowie were in the middle of a big battle for second place when that happened, and they had to change their focus from battling with one another to making sure they didn't run into the side of the 82 machine. So great job by all those drivers, and for Drew, it just looks like he got a little loose coming off the corner, maybe got a little bit of help from the number 28 machine as well. No, I don't believe so. It looks like he just got sideways and just turned it around to bring us out for another caution here at Richmond.
Another yellow flag in this one, and thought that we were stretching into a green flag stretch. Going to be under yellow now with 80 laps to go. Race leader's going to be down pit road. Freenars has got plenty of space as he searches for 4 tires. We will step aside, and the good news is we start to count down towards the end. Freenars so good for so long. We'll see if he can hang on for the win in tonight's Richmond 180. We'll be back in a moment on LSRTV and iRacing Live.
When I was 16 years old, I was working in a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with him one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. That was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Daryl and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 you know, dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to, you know, experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Back from the Richmond Raceway, when we were aside, I think it's safe to say significant problems on track after contact with Nick Silver's 24 and Michael Cozy's 77 machine. The inside was kind of there, and Cozy went to make a move. It was a battle for 10th position on track. It broke Silver sideways, and unfortunately for him, he just kind of slowly spun sideways to a stop right on the inside of the racetrack. The track was blocked. The pit lane wall is right there, and that was a very short track wreck that collected a handful of drivers.
Yeah, that unfortunately was at a part of the track where you're kind of blind coming off the corner, because you're in the middle of the corner. You can't really see what's going on, and if your spotter can't call it out quickly enough, you're basically just driving right into it, which is exactly what we saw for a lot of those drivers. They were just kind of going into the corner praying that nothing was going to happen on the other side, and unfortunately that's not how it worked out for them. But one of those deals, that's what you expect to see at short track racing. I believe we were talking about it under that commercial break, where we've been seeing a lot of single car spins here, and that's not what you see when you're at a short track typically, and now we finally got our first actual short track style wreck here tonight.
Those are the ones I said as we were aside, Chris, that I would expect to see at a place like Richmond. Just the nature of racing this many cars in this little space. Again, up until the yellow flag right at that halfway point when we saw problems with Adamson, we'd only had one driver drop out of this race. So it was a very clean, I don't want to say uncharacteristically clean short track race, because I think that's kind of an unfair thing to say, but I mean, everybody was doing a very good job, and you could only get away with contact on race start so many times before finally you get something like that.
You're absolutely right, Evan, and we're going to start seeing a lot of more, I think, of these wrecks and maybe some more contact and people being aggressive, because just that time by, we took 70 laps to go. This race has been going by pretty quickly here tonight because of those single car spins. We've been able to get everybody stacked back up, go back green, and really just click away these laps, and the green flag runs that we've had have really helped with that. Now we're getting down to crunch time. We're going to start seeing people from 10th on back try to make their way up towards the front, maybe be a little bit more aggressive, make moves they shouldn't be doing, and that's exactly what's going to start happening and make those wrecks more frequent. But as for now, lights back off on the pace car. They're going to double up. Andrew Freenar's Brandon Bowie get set to restart this field.
It is, I think, the biggest takeaway, though, it is Freenar's in control as we are now inside of 70 laps to go tonight from the Richmond Raceway. Bowie, as you mentioned, right there as well outside, but I have yet to see somebody get that little bit extra. Have had plenty of times to come down pit road to make those small tweaks if you can, but Freenar still appears to be, and I said it earlier, if without any problems, he should have a very good shot at this one, and being in front of everybody puts him in the best position possible. So as we work deeper and deeper into the second half of this race, can anybody step up to the plate and chase down the 88 of Freenar's? Green flag is back in the air. He'll clear by 3 car lengths. Bowie going to be safely in second. Preet on the inside, can't get it, stays in third.
The battle is on behind those guys. You've got Michael Guerrilla and David Washington battling side by side for that position. Looks like Guerrilla is going to get the run off the top of the corner and be able to clear the number 98 of David Washington to take control of that 4th position. And now here comes David Comstock once again rolling the outside line. We saw him pass 2 cars in 1 corner a handful of laps ago. He's trying to do it again as he tries to pass the number 99 of Tommy Ryan and tries to get around David Washington at the same time. A big run once again for that 42 machine.
Big run for the 42 of Comstock. He might be the driver that can challenge. He just needs to get up there and get that little bit extra. He's been picking his way through the field. Last time we checked in with him, he had gotten up to the number 7 position, and he wants to get now 5th. He had Washington at the line. 98, though, pulls back even in the center of the corner. It's going to be a great fight. 5th and 6th spot, Comstock and Washington.
Washington, Comstock doing battle as Comstock gets a little bit of a bobble coming out of 4, going to get into the wall, coming across the start-finish line. There's a big stack up behind him as now Gabe Wood, Tommy Ryan goes side by side, Brandon Jones, or no, Dylan Jones, I don't know what that was, just behind them, and the 11 contact between the 98 and the 42 coming out of 4, going to send the 42 up the track, not going to hinder any of his speed as he's carrying momentum off into turn 1.
Exactly what you got to do, though. Maintain speed off of the corners, obviously. The straightaways at Richmond aren't all that long, but, people like Comstock who have taken a little bit of a different approach to this, the likes of Cozy who have picked it up, and everybody else who was running it has gone to show that if you can get a little bit more speed, the better off you'll be. This back and forth continues. Not to forget, of course, Freenar's leading this race. Bowie's not all that far off of the bumper, and if they start to fight, we'll jump up there, but 4th and 5th up for grabs, or rather 5th and 6th, sorry, with Washington and Comstock, and then 7th and 8th are side by side as well. Tommy Ron and Gabe Wood. Good, hard racing. Some of the top drivers in the series right here going nose to nose.
I'm telling you what, if there wasn't contact between the 42 and the 98 that last time by through 3 and 4, you couldn't have fit a piece of paper between them if there wasn't contact. That's how close they came in the middle of the corner. Comstock went down the track as he gets sideways going into the corner. It looks like he jumped on the brakes a little too hard. He's able to keep it pointed in the right direction, but that could have hurt his momentum, and they remain side by side. But these two are just going after, and Comstock's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's trying to pinch the 98 down, try to keep him from being able to get the run up off the corner. That's how he's able to stay even with him, and at times inch ahead. But the problem is the bottom of the racetrack still is working fairly well for these guys because they have the fresher tires. Once they get a little bit more laps on the tires, you're going to see that high side really start to come into play, and I think that's why Comstock is staying out there. He's trying to force these guys to move up, and he's trying to force them to use their tires early.
And even early in this race, in the opening 60 laps, we talked about how the outside really wasn't working, but it would be once the track got rubbered in. And now you talk about the exact opposite, with the outside maybe being the better line. Comstock, I thought he was going to get it that time. Had to only go about 3/4 on the gas off of the corner, and Washington's going to stay right there. They've sorted it out behind them. Tommy Rahn winning that battle for 7th. Dylan Jones sucked in 8th. Then you've got DeMerchant and Gabe Wood slotting back to round out your top 10, but 5th and 6th still in a stalemate. And what this is doing is it's really dropping all these cars further and further back from the top 4. Finally, David Comstock gets sole possession of P5. He's only a second now behind Guerrilla in front of him. That's what that cost him.
And Washington's not done fighting yet. You can see the 99 of Tommy Ryan going to jump out to the outside line. I don't think he'll be able to stick there, and no, the 98 will clear him off of 4. Evan, you just got to think, taking away these laps and how close we're getting to the finish of this 180 lap race, how much that battle took off of those tires, because they were side by side for a number of laps. So you mentioned that gap between David Comstock and Michael Guerrilla. Will Comstock be able to make that up with how much wear he just put on those tires? I don't think it'll be possible. You know, it was so hard on those tires to get around Washington. Catching Guerrilla, who's been out on an island all by himself just riding, I think is going to be really hard.
We'll see if he's able to kind of find the correct balance, but Guerrilla is really isolated. 7, or actually now 1.5 seconds back to Preet, and then about 0.7 of a second in front of Comstock. You can see, though, definitely the speed in Comstock and Washington. They went side by side for so long. Now that they have single filed out, I don't think that Washington isn't challenging by any means. He's been all over the back of Comstock, but at least now that they're single file, immediately catching it back up to Guerrilla. Makes you wonder, Brian, if one of them maybe should have backed out of it, but I don't think they agree with that sentiment, because the 98 trying to get side by side once more. Again, you do that, you cost yourself time in the grand scheme of things. Maybe they feel like, though, this battle for 5th and 6th position big enough to put it on the line.
And these guys just continue to go after it. And this has been a great battle for the majority of the last 15 laps or so. These 4 drivers, you can almost throw a blanket over top of them. That's how close they've been to one another. And now they're starting to catch up to that number 17 machine of Michael Guerrilla. They've brought him in within about 4 or 5 car lengths now. And the high line, once again, is really starting to work for these drivers. But I do want to point something out. You look at these guys running the high groove, and then you go look at our race leader, Andrew Freenars, and you look at Brandon Bowie. They're both running the bottom of the racetrack, and they have been consistently faster than everybody behind them. So while the high line is working and you can make passes and hold people off, I don't necessarily think it's the fastest way around the track, because the 2 guys that they're trying to catch are not doing it, and they are pulling away.
Battle with the 11 machine of Dylan Jones and 99 of Tommy Rahn is under fire. Jones has been trying to get to the inside for the last couple of laps. It's almost, you know, a mirrored picture of what they're seeing in front, awfully close that time as Jones tied up off at the corner. But he's doing exactly what Washington's doing on Comstock, just in a battle with Tommy Rahn, trying to get down low. And again, the inside is wide open because it's simply not the preferred lane anymore. And it can get frustrating when you can get there but constantly can't do anything with it.
That is exactly what's happening right now. Comstock able to hold that middle line. You see him riding 2 tires on that white line, and then we'll just cut it kind of down just below that line, just to hold that kind of second groove there, Evan. That's where the rubber is. That's where all these drivers want to be. So you can see Washington use that line and be able to use it effectively to get to the back bumper of David Comstock. But once he gets there, he can't go anywhere with it. He can't go high because he risks going too high and getting freight trained by Tommy Ryan, who's right behind him. And he can't go low because that's just not where the line is. So now, as they've caught the 17 of Michael Guerrilla, Guerrilla has caught lap traffic, so we'll have to see how that really plays a factor into things. Meanwhile, behind them, behind those 4 cars, like Brian Macklin said, you could throw a blanket over them because they're so close. There is a side-by-side battle between Eberhardt and DeMerchant. Eberhardt just cut off the nose of DeMerchant there. Now Gabe Wood going to look to the inside of DeMerchant, almost made contact with the 90, had to get hard on the brakes there, going to allow DeMerchant to rocket off the corner back by the 00.
I'll tell you what, Daniel Eberhard ain't making any friends. Yes, he was clear on DeMerchant, but the 57 was getting run off of the quarter, and Donnie slid up in front of him, put the block on him, and then Gabe Wood came down to the inside, and the Donnie car put a block on him, so blocking high and blocking low. Daniel Eberhard doing what he's got to do to maintain a top 10 running spot. He's now 9th, which is exactly where he started 135 laps ago. Looks like he's able to pull a little bit on DeMerchant and Wood, but if I were you, I'd keep it half-eye, because if they get back up to the 90 machine, don't expect them to be as cordial on that second attempt to make the pass.
And that's where their short track tempers really just come into play, because these guys have been doing this for the last 3 weeks now, and they've had this tight quarters racing with one another for that long, and it just really forces you to get very aggressive and can at times make you be a little too aggressive, and that's what we just saw there, was a little bit of aggression between those two drivers, but they've sorted it out, and now they've gotten single file, and this train of cars right in front of them, they just cannot seem to get separated from one another. It starts with Michael Guerrilla running in that 4th position, and then you've got David Comstock, David Washington, Tommy Ryan, and Dylan Jones, all just still right there within a couple car lengths of one another. And this has been a great battle amongst all of these drivers. The problem is they're almost 4 seconds behind the race leaders right now. They've gotten themselves a pretty big deficit that they have to figure out how to run back down. And they're starting to run out of time. We're down to just 43 laps to go in this thing.
Gabe Wood got a little bit sideways at a turn 2 as he himself was trying to get up and around Seth DeMerchant. So no matter where you are inside of the top 10, everybody is doing battle. I do think the next fight for position we'll see, though, is going to be between Michael Guerilla and David Comstock. He's had to hold off a couple of attempts by Washington, and an 98 is all kinds of out of shape down the back straightaway, almost like a speed wobble. Got sideways off the turn, and that car tank slapped back and forth like 3 to 4 times, and that's going to give even more distance for the 42 of Comstock to fight on his own as Ryan tries to get by Washington. But I do think if Comstock can knock off 4 or 5 very good laps in a row here, he'll be on top of the 17, and we'll have a fight for 4th. In the meantime, the fight's going to be for 6th, 7th, and 8th position. Dylan Jones up top now in the 98 machine of Washington.
Huge mistake by Washington with that bubble, going to cost him 1 position, now maybe 2, as Dylan Jones looks to the outside. Still, even with the 98, not too big of a run off the corner, but huge loss for that 98 of David Washington. Meanwhile, like you said, in front of them, David Comstock trying to click away and catch up to Michael Guerilla. He was on the back bumper at one point there, as all 3 of them were racing for that position, but since has fallen off of the 17. Just a few little mistakes, a few little bobbles, as you saw out of 2 there. Now look at Tommy Ryan, Dylan Jones. They got by that 98 of David Washington. Now they're looking at David Comstock. That 98 of Tommy Ryan, Evan, looking really strong right now.
He's in a very good spot. He's been able to pick up a spot here or there. Obviously, I think it was aided by that mistake by Washington, who got out of shape, but Tommy Ryan is the highest in the running order he has been all night long. And the drivers who run top 10 right now, all but 3 of them started inside of the top 10, and Tommy Ryan was 11, so that's a bit of a stretch. We'll get back to that in a minute. Yellow flag is out. It's problems with Shane Parrish. The number 18 machine has got a lot of damage on the back straightaway.
Yeah, and that actually started with a side-by-side battle between him and James Ross. It looks like they made contact going down the back straightaway. James Ross came down into the 18 of Shane Parrish and sent him into the inside wall, and unfortunately, I think that's going to spell an end to the 18 machine, because he made heavy contact. Almost bounced back up into the racing surface and could have taken several drivers with him, but got away with that one right there. And now, after a pretty long green flag run, I think you're going to see most of these drivers, actually, I expect to see all of these drivers on pit road for 4 tires and fuel, and this could, Evan Pasoko, be the money stop, because with just over 35 laps remaining in this thing, this may be their final trip to pit road.
Parrish hard hit on the inside wall, access area, and it's basically going to take him out of this one. We are on pit road, though. 35 laps to go. This is the money stop. Probably want to get those 4 tires, but just because you might be on the same strategy call as somebody, that'll mean you're guaranteed to not gain or lose anything. We have seed races this season. have crucial moments and even final moments decided by who can execute and who cannot execute on pit road. Freenars all the way down pit road into pit stall number 1. You see the 11 Dylan Jones tucking it behind him. It is going to be right side tires, and as we expected, the left sides are going to go up as now. Just a little bit more fuel, they'll be good to go to the end. The race off of pit road is tight. Look at the 37 of Spencer Preet. I think he got it. Spencer Preet was in third, and I think he's going to win the race off of pit road. What a move.
The closest battle we've seen on pit road all night. Spencer Preet gonna pick up a position over Andrew Freenar, so that should make this restart real interesting here, Evan. As Brian said, this could be the money stop, the final restart of the race. These guys can make it on tires and fuel from here, so everybody making moves, and Spencer Preet making moves in a huge way to take that lead from the 88 and put that 88 on the outside lane.
That might have been it. We had alluded to it all night long. We hadn't seen it. And I mean, you want to talk about a close race off of pit road, Brian. Wasn't even sure if it was Preet, if it had been Eberhard, or the other challenger that was right there, the 43, Richard Bowie, almost himself snagged away that number 2 position on track. Freenars is going to get that one, so Bowie's going to end up in third. And it looks like that no drivers from the back are going to stay out for position. The 12 of Cato, the 4 of Whitaker are out. They're going to get a wave by. They'll get out of the way. So Spencer Preet is indeed going to find himself in the race lead first time tonight, with the race started about 30 to go.
And this is going to be big for Andrew Freenars, because with the exception of a couple of pit stops where we had some guys take no tires or take 2 tires, he's been in control of this race. And now, with 30 laps to go, you're going to have everybody on an equal playing field. Everybody's got 4 fresh tires, and he's going to have to chase somebody and try to get back around that 37 machine of Spencer Preet if he wants to get the lead back and potentially go to victory lane. And I have to say, I don't necessarily think I like the position that he's in right now. If you look back at the previous restarts, the guy in second place has struggled to get up to speed, and at times has really kind of lost a good amount of time to the leader. This could be a situation where if he can't get up to speed, Brandon Bowie might get in front of him as well, and then he's going to have 2 guys to pass. So this is a very critical moment for that 88 machine if he's going to win this thing.
And the big thing as well, you mentioned he's on the outside of the racetrack, so not only is Preet going to be that control car, but watch for Bowie. You were mentioning that 43 machine right there. We had seen the likes of Washington and Eberhard make those moves from that second row many a times tonight. The lights are out on the pace car, and we get set to do battle. Going to be 31 laps left to go from Richmond. Well, there is a chance that this could be it. Something tells me that there is a lot that is still to be determined here tonight from Ridgeway, Virginia. Pace car down it in this time. Spencer Preet, first time he'll bring us to the green flag tonight. In the number 37 Chevrolet, field is in his hands as they come out of 4, and it is a great jump for Preet. He'll get the lead to the line. Watch for Bowie trying to go for second. He cannot do it, so Freenar stays in second.
And he gave it everything he could to try to take that second position away from Andrew Freenars, but just wasn't able to do it. Now they get single file through the front 4 cars, and here comes Andrew Freenars. He drove deep into the corner trying to make that run on this 37 of Spencer Preet. Not quite able to do it, and now he's got to look at his mirror just a little bit because Brandon Bowie is right there as well. And now once again he dives it off into turn 1, seeing if he can try to make Spencer Preet make a mistake, and he's trying to close that gap, but he's still got about a car length and a half to make there.
You have to make up that little bit extra, and there's a couple of different ways you could go about this. You try to get a little bit here and a little bit there, or you just make one big sweepy move and try to catch that car off guard. Look at the 88 of Freenars, maybe showed his hand a little bit, peeked to the inside. Spencer Preet, Chris, definitely reacted to that, stepped down about a half a lane, protected that spot. Freenars is there, though this is going to be a great fight. Don't count out Bowie either in third.
And as much as Spencer Preet wants to look at his mirror and mirror drive, you can't do that too much, because the moment you start looking in your mirror here, Evan, you start going backwards. And look, mirror driving, missed the corner, almost got passed on the inside by Andrew Freenars, able to keep the outside going, keep the lane moving, and keep in front of that 88. That's the big thing. Once you let that 88 in front of you, or once you let him get a lane, this race is over, because he's been very strong. Spencer Preet gonna get a break though as a caution comes out.
The caution flag is out, and It's going to slow things down up front. Problems with Brian Chambliss and Randy Yoakum. 2 cars up against the inside wall in this one. You're going to bring out the yellow. In fact, neither of those two is where it all started. It was issues with a 45-inch Carl Shed was running in 18th position and had a mistake on his own. Sideways off of 2. He smacked the outside wall pretty good and then was basically a sitting duck in the middle of the racetrack. The 19, Eric Stanford tried to go low to avoid him, Brian. It did quite the opposite. It put those 2 cars on a collision course, and unfortunately, they just ran out of real estate, and it was a wreck that lasted about half a lap, started in 2, and finally came to a rest in turn 4.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things where you're just praying for it to be over with. And for Carl Shed, that was just a very bad sequence of events for him. As you mentioned, just one thing after another happened. And unfortunately, Randy Yoakum and a couple others were just at the wrong place at the right time. And going to cost them some pretty significant damage. And it looks like Carl Shed has retired from the evening, so unfortunate there for him. But this is going to set up for another pretty exciting restart here for these guys at the front of the field. Spencer Preet had an incredible restart that last time, and Andrew Freener's not so much. He actually lost several car lengths before they even got to turn 1. He cannot afford to make that kind of mistake again. He was definitely quicker than the 37, but being faster than the guy you're chasing and being able to actually get around him is one thing. We saw earlier on in this race at Pasoco when David Comstock and David Washington were going at it, Comstock was quicker and he was able to eventually make the pass, but it took him a good 10 laps or so to actually make the pass and get clear of David Washington. You're not going to have that kind of time between these two as we get closer to the end of this thing.
And that's, you know, one of those situations where maybe you see that opportunity presented to you and you got to jump on it. Obviously, restart going to come with 20 laps to go, Chris. A lot can happen in that time, but if you don't get a situation like that up in front of you, you might be questioning, should I have made that move then? And of course, every restart brings its own set of variables. Preet's going to have to get a good jump here. Farinars is flip-flopped with Bowie, so he'll have to clear and maintain second, whereas Bowie's going to be the one trying to move up for the inside row. So the only obvious change here is the fact that the 88's up on the outside of the front row. I'm not sure that's any better for him, though. I think Bowie here in the 43 machines got a really good shot, and even if it's not enough of a run to get up there and fight for the race win, if he just gets there, that little bit of side-by-side could be enough of an obstacle for Preet to get a little bit of distance and stay in front and hang on to this thing.
You're absolutely right, because you got to think of where Brandon Bowie is at on the racetrack right now. He's inside row 2, Evan. What does that mean? He can get right up on the back bumper of Spencer Preet and go with him as soon as that 37 hits the gas pedal, which could possibly put him and Andrew Freenar side by side going off into one, which is exactly what Spencer Preet would want to see out of his rearview mirror. See both the 88 and the 43 going side by side and just smooth sailing for a little bit anyway until they settle that out. If they would settle that out, we've seen a lot of lengthy side-by-side battles here tonight, so Spencer Preet really needs that 43 of Brandon Bowie to get right up on his back bumper and hit the gas as soon as the 37 does. So we'll have to see if there's any communication between those two, because that can be a viable strategy for that 37. Get that 43 up on the back bumper as the lights are off on the pace car.
And it makes this one a 21 lap to go restart from the Richmond Raceway. So we got about a half a distance compared to what we had last time. Still with 26 cars on the lead lap. There is no guarantees that this is the final restart. But I think if you are Spencer Preet and anybody who wants a shot at this, we're talking a lot about Freenars and Bowie. Guerrilla Ryan right there. Jones, Everhart, Comstock, Washington. Big names in the top 10. You never know what could happen. I think you have to treat this like it's your last best opportunity. Preet goes right away, and he's off for the race lead. A little bit of a rough shift, though, so he doesn't have as big as a gap to turn 1, but there is Brandon Bowie side by side with Farinars for second.
And that's the restart that Bowie needed. He needed to try to get even with the 88 as they got off into turn 1, so he had the opportunity to try to take that second position away, and he's going to take that position away from Freenars. He's able to get clear. Freenars tries to fight back now, tries to dive to the bottom, got sideways coming off of turn 4. Now battle for the lead. Here comes Bowie to the inside of Spencer Preet. Can he complete the pass as they come off turn 2, door to door as they come down the back straightaway? And now here comes Andrew Freenars. Can he make it a three-way battle for the lead?
Side by side, you can see Preet knows that the 43's got him in a tough spot. He was really pinching him that time at a corner. Preet grazes the fence that time, showers some sparks. Still side by side for the race lead. Bowie with the runoff, and he's got it. Brandon Bowie to the race lead with 18 laps to go. Here comes Farinars now for second.
Farinars to the inside of the 37 of Preet, trying to make that pass for second work as they go off into turn one. He does clear the 37 of Preet. Now all eyes are focused on the battle for the lead. Farinars try to get to the back bumper of Brandon Bowie out of the corner, not going to have the run quite to do it. He sends it off into turn three, trying to close up that gap. Brandon Bowie does have him on exit though. Brandon Bowie doing a great job at maintaining that gap, not letting Farinars getting the lane he wants on the inside line. You can see Farinars start to use that yellow line, Evan, to start to turn the car. Brandon Bowie not quite using that strategy just yet, so maybe tight on that 88 machine.
In the 88 machine, though, after what looked like a very bad restart, had Bowie pass him up. He had dropped to third. Is kind of back to square one. Second position, chasing somebody down. I'm not sure if Spencer Preet has enough speed, Brian, to be able to get up there and get back in this. And I think he made that move on pit road, and that was going to be the race-winning move. That or nothing. He's still in third. He's keeping pace, but I think Farinars and Bowie have that little bit extra bite, and these two still have some unfinished business. 15 to go.
For Spencer Preet, what he needs to have an opportunity at this is for Farinars and Brandon Bowie to get side by side and start racing and allow him to be able to catch back up to get back into this battle. That's really at this point going to be his only opportunity, and right now that's not the case. Brandon Bowie and Andrew Farinars are running virtually identical lap times, and they're not really giving anything to one another, and it's been an incredible battle for these guys. And if you looked at the longer runs through this race, Andrew Farinars was a little bit quicker than Brandon Bowie, but Bowie was able to keep pace with him for about 25 to 30 laps. So we only had 21 laps when we went back green, so that's all he's got to do. Just stay faster than the 88 for a handful of laps. If he can do that, he could hang on to potentially get his first win of the season. And if you go back to last year, it took him all the way into the season finale in Homestead for him to get his first win of the season. He doesn't want to wait that long this year.
He's on track right now. He just got to finish the deal. 12 laps to go. It's going to feel like an eternity for Brandon Bowie up at the front of the field. Farinars only a car length off. Looking to become the third driver this year with multiple wins. The first to go back-to-back, though. He won from Bristol just a week ago. Preet still there. Guerrilla Jones, your top 5. Eberhardt, Ron, Washington, Warden, Comstock are your top 10. And there's the move. Look at the 88 machine of Farinars. He gets moved up and out of the way. After he tried to squeeze high on Bowie, it did not work, and now we fight for second.
There was a whole lot of contact. Bowie put the 88 into the wall as the 88 was trying to squeeze to the outside, and then gave him a little bit of a hip check going through 3 and 4 to make to really rough up that 88 machine. Going to cost Andrew Farinars the position as Spencer Preet was able to capitalize, move himself back all the way up to the second position. Now on the back bumper of Brandon Bowie, the 37 looks to try to maybe repay the favor, get that position back. A little bit of bobble from Preet. Now here they go, a little bit of a gap between these three drivers, but here comes Farinars off the corner, not going to have the run he needs to. A little bit more of a bobble from the 37 across the start finish line. Wreck on the front straightaway.
Caution's going to come out with 8 laps to go. Problems on the front straightaway. We'll slow this one down. Looks like Dylan Jones in the 11 is able to keep on going. He is one of the cars that spun, and it was a fight with Guerrilla and I think the 90 machine as well of Eberhardt for 4th and 5th position. Brian, I had mentioned a lot of fun. It was going on top 10. Obviously, all eyes were up front. Benani tried to squeeze low, got a little bit too tight. He tags Guerrilla, who spins as well as Dylan Jones.
Man, that was just a tight battle. Eberhardt was going for everything he could get right there, and he just got a little too close to the left rear of Michael Guerrilla, turned him sideways. Unfortunate for both of those drivers. Some pretty significant damage, it looks like, for Dylan Jones as well, as he got turned around and got hit by a couple of drivers. But this is going to set up for one heck of a shootout here as we get ready to go back green, and we have the opportunity for these drivers to come to pit road should they choose, and it looks like everybody, at least up through the top 7 or 8, is going to stay out. Top 10 looks like everybody's going to stay on the race racetrack. Not surprised at all by that call. But now, with this restart coming, Brandon Bowie and Andrew Freenarch had a little bit of a moment on the backstretch just a handful of laps ago when they go back green for what could be the final restart, what I expect to be the final restart. Andrew Freenarch is going to be right behind that 43 machine, Evan Pasoko. We might see a little bit of that short track payback coming.
I think that this race is perfectly set up for this one to come to some fisticuffs because that yellow came out with 8 to go. This restart, Chris, is going to be inside of 5 to go, which means that it is going to be the final restart. A yellow means that this race is going to end under yellow flag conditions. First off, it's going to be a dash to the white flag and then a dash to the checkered flag, depending on which one we get to.
Yeah, that's really, you hit the nail on the head, depending on which one we get to. Maybe some payback coming between Andrew Freenarch and Brandon Bowie. They are going to be starting right, Freenarch is going to be starting right behind Brandon Bowie this time on the restart, so he really needs to get in side by side with Spencer Preet on this restart to have a chance to win this one. It's going to be very quick, very fast, and I think very aggressive for these drivers because, as you mentioned, going to be starting within 5 laps to go, and that is the point of no return.
And I think at this point it is all now the point of no return. This time by going to be 5 laps left to go in this race. Brian Backlund, we've had a couple of fun restarts to watch, but I think that you got to buckle up for this one. It's about to get a little bit crazy. The one thing, again, we talked with the drivers post-race last week at Bristol. We mentioned it at the start of the night. Yes, this is fun racing for us, but it's so stressful for the drivers. Short track racing, close quarters, tends to lend itself to some wild action and a little bit of bent sheet metal, and I think that's exactly what's on tap.
This place is known for its intensity. We have seen some incredible races here in real life and here on iRacing over the years, and now we're set up for an incredible finish at a track that you expect this type of stuff to happen. So many times we get a short 2 or 3 lap run at the end of this thing for these guys to settle it out, and now we've got these guys that have had some issues at the front between Brandon Bowie and Andrew Freenarch, and they're going to line up bumper to bumper when we go back green. This has all the makings to be one of the best finishes we've had here in RSR, and pretty much any time that I have been in this broadcast booth calling one of these races. It's going to be absolutely insane. I cannot wait to see how this plays out.
And this is it. Past the start-finish line, lights go out on top of the pace car. It all comes down after 177 laps elapsed so far. It is going to come down to a 3-lap-to-go shootout at Richmond. You could get 100 feet. You could get all 3 laps. Brandon Bowie, though, wants to make sure that he keeps the number 43 Chevrolet in front of the rest of the field. Both he and Preet on the front row on this one. Preet with a race win earlier this year at Daytona. The 88 of Freenarch with a race win a week ago at Bristol. It's Bowie in this group who's looking for his first race win of the 2018 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto L.L.C. season. Here we go. Pace cars in. 3 laps to go from Richmond.
Brandon Bowie got the restart of his life. He was down and away. He's got 2 car lengths over Andrew Freenarch and Spencer Preet, who are side by side. Preet goes way wide. We have a wreck off of turn 2. That's going to be it. Tommy Ryan got turned around, and a host of others got caught up in it as well. And that will bring the caution out that will end this thing and allow for Brandon Bowie to get his first win of the 2018 season.
Well, he wasn't quite 100 feet, but it was definitely not all 3 laps. The yellow flag comes out. You had to expect that, of course, not only are they funding for everything up front, but, Chris, the same applies to the rest of the field. That was their last best chance, and it got messy in turn 2.
Messy is an understatement. That was a huge wreck going off into the corner there. Tommy Ryan being at the front of it. You could see it on the replay that it was just such a hard wreck for that 99 machine. He tried to keep it saved. It was him, David Washington. It was kind of a slow spin for a little bit. Nobody really had anywhere to go because that 99 was in the middle of the track, and just the 67 of Casto just plowed right into the front end of the 99, and it just went on from there.
It was an accordion effect. There was no chance that anybody back in that mess of cars was going to be able to get around that one, and it causes a yellow at lap number 178, which means that as we group up behind the pace car and head back down to turns 3 and 4, Brandon Bowie. Wasn't able to make it work on the pit call late, wasn't able to make magic on the first 2 restarts, but when it mattered the most, he got the move he needed, and he'll come out of turn number 4 with his first race win on 2018. Checkered flag of Brandon Bowie, your full throttle winner from Richmond.
And what a huge victory this is for that team. These guys have wanted to get a victory early on. I spoke to them back at Daytona, and he said, we don't want to wait until the season finale to get a win. We want to win this race early, get it out of the way. We know the wins aren't going to get us into the playoffs this season, but we want that monkey off our back early so we can just focus on scoring points and getting ourselves into a position to race for a championship. And finally, he's going to get that monkey off his back, and this may open the floodgates for this 43 machine. He's fast every week. He's just got to be in the right spot, and he was in the right place tonight.
Right place, right time. He capitalized on the opportunity he was given, and Brandon Bowie is burning it down on the front straightaway as your Full Throttle Cup winner tonight from the Richmond Raceway. So as he celebrates, what we'll do is take an opportunity to step aside one more time, and we will come back to Richmond in a moment and catch up with the top finishers here tonight. It was a rough and tough battle, late race restarts, but Bowie ends up on top. We'll be trackside with him in a minute. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the 2018 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto LLC. The post-race show is next on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live.
It was more than impressive, I have to say. I mean, the track is identical to the real track. I was blown away how realistic it is. Every little bump, every little spray paint, everything is exactly like you were there at the track. It was a great experience. This is a warm-up lap now. Tires to get warmed up. The engine. Breathe a little bit here when you go through that little bump there. And then it's flat pretty much all the way through here, just about. Hard braking. This is the slowest part of the track. And then I've done, I did many races in Formula 3, Formula 2, and then I did the very last race they did there in Group C in 1983 in the 956 Porsche. That's when Beloff got the lap record at the 6:11. I think I was second on the grid with the 6:14 or something, which was, I mean, those cars were awesome around there, of course, like any car is, that speed. And this is the corner of all corners here, the Schwedenkreuz. Flat all the way into it. And then trail brake all the way into the apex here. And then hard at it again, get good speed down the hill here. Mega fast down this hill here. Just jump from one apex to the next. Gotta be super precise here. I mean, it's almost exactly like the real thing. So, I mean, it is certainly realistic enough to get past the very, a lot of the initial hurdles you have when you try to learn to drive a race car, So, I mean, I think it's an excellent tool to learn how to race for sure, or learn to drive a car on a racetrack.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV, and it may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing L.L.C. and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. And welcome back live to the Richmond Raceway. LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto LLC. Continuing tonight, now 7 races in the books on 2018. As we welcome you back into the LSRTV post-race show, Evan Pasoko, Brian Backlund, Chris Murdoch with you. With Cisco Scardabusa downstairs. Brandon Bowie is your race winner tonight, and we'll go trackside chat with him and the rest of our top finishers in just a moment. But first, as always, let's look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. Bowie gets the win tonight. On top of pole sitter Andrew Friedars, who comes up a little bit late. Late race yellow prevents the 88 from getting that one final Hail Mary shot at him, and he has to settle for the bridesmaid position. Michael Carillia ends where he started in third. So close for Spencer Preet. If this race was about 20 laps shorter, the 37 would have been in victory lane instead of it's a P4 result. Jeff Ward behind in fifth. Michael Cozy Jr. in sixth spot tonight. Seth the Merchant comes home seventh. David Comstock, big improvement, jumps up to P8. You've also got Kyle Kmart in ninth, and Gabe Wood rounds out your top 10.
Finishing in the 11th position here tonight was the number 32 of Shane Ewing. Daniel Falkingham will finish in 12th. Nick Silver comes home in that 13th position. Then we have Colby Buck finishing in 14th. Drew Adamson will finish in the 15th position tonight. Ross Cato comes home from 16th position. Dwayne Vincent, not really heard a lot out of him tonight. He comes home in 17th. Then we have Sean Casto in 18th. 19th goes to Galen Goodman. And rounding out the top 20, Mike Taylor finishes 20th.
Taking you through the rest of your field here, Braden Whitaker going to be in 21st, 22nd, Tommy Ryan, Dylan Jones, 23rd, 24th goes to Daniel Eberhardt, Eric Stanford, 25th, 26th, James Ross, Scott Walter, 27th, 28th, David Washington, Brian Chambliss comes home in 29th, 30th, Carl Shedd, Randy Yoakum, 31st, 32nd goes to Shane Parrish, 33rd, Lionel Callisto, 34th, Andrew T. Jones, and Dwight Beverly rounding out your 35 car field. That's a look top to bottom at your full field results tonight here from Richmond Raceway. Gonna throw it down to Evan Pasoko standing in victory lane with a very, very happy Brandon Blue.
First race win on 2018 for the driver of the 43. We are trackside with Brandon Bowie, your race winner tonight from Richmond Raceway. Brandon, congratulations on the win. We knew that you guys had a sporty race car all night. You started up front. You were really in the mix throughout all of it, but I think that despite the fact of what happened in the first 160 or so laps, this race really came down to those late couple of restarts. Tell us about them.
Yeah, the race was kind of unexpected. Got a couple short, long runs, I guess you could say, and you know, I kind of just minded my business and kind of just see what the car would do. And then got toward the end, and I believe Spencer stayed out, or didn't stay out, but he got a good pit stop, came out first, pushed us back to third. A couple cars came out after that, and I just knew that it was it. You know, I was going to have to go to the front, or might as well call it over. But just pushed myself to the front. Unfortunately, I got to definitely apologize to Andrew. I made a mistake. I got loose, and I tried to stay off of him and endured him, pushed him right into the wall, so pretty much cost him a win there. I think me and him racing would have been a heck of a battle.
Tell us about, well, yeah, tell us about that fight, because he was in a mix as well. Of course, up until those late couple of goes, Spencer Preet jumped up, and the 37 was working in front of you guys. Was there a point in this race where you kind of thought you were out of it, or did you guys think that you know, evenly matched it off, and you had confidence in your car that if you could find yourself in the right spot, you'd be able to execute?
Yeah, I pretty much felt pretty good, actually sitting third. I knew that if I got a very, very good restart, then I could pretty much get side by side with Andrew, make the pass, and then kind of slowly but surely work on Spencer. Spencer didn't seem like he had the short run speed, but it seemed like he definitely had the long run speed. So basically, I just, you know, hoped and prayed that the cautions would line up right, and they seemed to line up just right for me.
First win on the year for you, obviously. The likes of Friedars and Preet up in the mix with you have had race wins already up until this point in the season. Just tell us about what that means for you guys to be able to break through and get the job done. Aside from finding that win, you guys have been awfully consistent. Second top 5 comes here tonight. Your 5th top 10, though, in nearly as many starts 7 weeks into the season. So it's been a good start to the year for you guys. What does the win and that little bit of an extra boost do for you?
Well, it shows that the last car loaded motorsports boys are fast. We just gotta be able to finish it. I think that's one of the things that we've kind of struggled with since the beginning of the season. We can get up front, we can lead laps, but for some reason or another, we can't finish it. So I think us getting the win kind of gives us a little bit more confidence that we can do it. You know, we just gotta be there at the end, and we can win even more.
Obviously, looking forward, it's been a rough couple of weeks if you want Martinsville, Bristol, and now Richmond. Unfortunately, it's not going to get any easier on you as we head to Talladega in 1 week's time. How do you maintain any sort of momentum going into a racetrack that's such a toss-up like that second super speedway on the segment?
Well, everybody knows Talladega is a lottery. You know, it just depends on whatever line is moving. And if you're leading, you got to be able to block both lines, or you got to be able to have somebody that really works with you from the drop of the green until the checkered. So it's, I guess it's probably treated just like Bristol. Be there at the end, and you got a chance. You know, if you're wrecked out 5-10 laps in, you know, you pretty much just giving up a free race to somebody else.
I think you could almost say the same thing here tonight. You were in it at the end. You guys made it count what it mattered the most, and you're the race winner tonight from Richmond Raceway. Brandon, we'll let you take off before, though, the sponsors and the shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you?
Got to definitely thank Matt Holden for allowing me to run Commodore's Garage. He's a great sponsor. He's been on the car since the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, I don't have any other sponsors on, but I definitely got to thank the Last Car Loaded team. They have been great to work with since the beginning of the season. We are new, but you know, I think this is just the beginning of us getting the cars ready, getting them right, and getting the finishes that we believe we definitely deserve.
It was a well-deserved win tonight, Brandon. We appreciate your time post-race. Congratulations on the win. Of course, congrats as well to the great start that you guys have had on 2018. Hopefully for you guys that continues for the rest of the year. But best of luck at Talladega next Monday night, and hopefully we'll catch up with you then as well.
All right. Thanks, David.
The race winner tonight from Richmond, Brandon Bowie, first checkered flag on the year. The 43 machine coming in clutch when it mattered the most, making a pass with the second to last restart, holding on at the end. He gets the win in tonight's Richmond 180. A lot of woulda, shoulda, couldas maybe in the mind of the 88 of Andrew Friedars, who comes home in second position. Brian Macklin is trackside with the driver of the 88.
I'm down here on pit road with the driver number 88, Andrew Freenars. Andrew, you started on the pole. You led the majority of the race, but unfortunately not the finish you were looking for. Wild finish to this thing leads to you getting a second-place finish. Take us through your night.
Yeah, started on pole. Had a good race. We're leading most of the race, and just, you know, even when we have a good night, we get unlucky. We lose the lead on pit road, and it was just bad to get up there. And of course, we're going for the lead, and Bowie got loose there, got into us. You know, bumped us up the racetrack, and from there, it just kind of didn't even have another chance at it. So, disappointment, really disappointed with second, but, you know, in hindsight, wins don't mean any bonus points, so we'll take a good points night and move on.
Well, I was getting ready to talk about that because if you look at the start to the season you've had, it's not exactly been a very stellar start. You've had some pretty bad finishes. Prior to last week's victory at Bristol, your best finish on the season was a 17th place finish all the way back at Phoenix. Other than that, it's been finishes outside the top 30. So having back-to-back top 2 finishes, albeit I know tonight's not what you're looking for, that's got to be a pretty good start to try to get some momentum back in your favor as we get to the summer stretch of this season.
Yeah, win would have been great, but, you know, again, we'll take second. It's only a point less, and we'll move on to next week. Just, you know, it's good to know I think we had the best car here tonight, and I think we proved it. Just, you know, pit stops, you know, did us in. So, like I said, we're having a great night, and even when we have good nights, just bad luck in pit road really cost us.
It's just one of those deals. You have a very fast car, as you mentioned, but now we're going from a track that requires a good bit of skill behind the wheel to a track that it's more of a crapshoot. We're going to Talladega next week. How do you feel about that going into the 2.5-mile super speedway after being on a short track for 3 straight weeks?
Truthfully, I'm ignoring it. I'm just looking forward to Dover in 2 weeks. So next week is just go out, try to have some fun, get a top 20, and on to Dover.
Well, there you go. Dover is also a very interesting track. The 1-mile concrete oval. That's actually my home track. It's a very exciting track to go race on, indeed. Before we let you go, Mr. Freenars, I just want to give you a chance to say thank you to your sponsors and say hi to any friends or family that might be watching. Who makes it happen for on the 88 machine?
First, I got to thank my brother for building a computer, let me run the sim, my dad for watching, my grandpa for all the support, Sean, Steve on the box did a great job today, Dylan, Eric, Kyle, Daniel, Dave, Galen, Steve, Dwayne, just everybody on Aegis, the support there is just incredible and amazing. LSRTV for broadcasting. I think it must have been a pretty entertaining race. The short track, we were beating banging for the lead there. Sucks to end under caution, but definitely a better product, I'd say, than last week. And all the fans for watching every single week. And I guess we'll move on to next week.
And indeed, tonight was a very exciting racing. It's the type of racing you expect to see at a short track. Thank you, Andrew Friedars. Good luck next week at Talladega, and we look forward to trying to chat with you again next week.
Thanks so much.
Andrew Friedars finishes in second after starting from the pole and leading the most laps here tonight. Not the run he was looking for, but a good points night nonetheless. And now, Chris Murdoch, I believe you have caught up with our third place finisher down on pit road, Michael Guerrilla, who had a solid night as well.
Yeah, I got the 17 of Michael Guerrilla here in pit road with me. As you know, he started third, finished third. Michael, you know, a whole lot of in between, a lot of beating and banging out there. Few cautions, race ended under caution. You got that final, or that last second pass on Spencer Preet there before that caution came out at the end. Talk to us about your night.
Well, it started off pretty good. I ran top 5 for most of the first half, and then on the first run, I completely killed my tires. I couldn't do anything with the Preet and these guys up in the front. So when I was happy to get a caution there after that first run. On the second run, I had so much better tire wear, and then a caution came out once again. So just didn't have luck with cautions, and pit stops killed me too. Every time I'd come down, I'd take 4 tires like everyone else did and lose 2 or 3 spots because I don't know, the pits crew just wasn't on tonight, I guess. But I just kept losing spots, kept moving back, but we fought our way back up to third. The incident with Eberhardt, that's just racing. We're both going for the same spot right there, under 10 laps to go. I'm not mad at him or anything. It's just racing. I feel bad for everyone else that got involved in it, but yeah, solid run. So I've been trying to stay consistent and just keeping it going tonight at my worst track.
Worst track turned into a sort of podium finish there. You know, you alluded to pit strategy, and especially down towards the end of the race when we got into maybe the final 80 laps or so, pit strategy was really up in the air because we started getting those cautions. You know, how did you keep focused, keep bouncing back from losing those positions to ultimately come home in third?
It's just staying disciplined, taking care of your tires. I know in these restarts they're very hectic because most of the times it's hard to gauge where your braking point is for turn 1 because you got fresh tires, so you feel like you got all the grip in the world. So you go off into 1 and usually you just overshoot it, and I've seen that a lot of times tonight. But it's just staying in line, trying to work the lines. I know the outside lane had a lot of momentum there. I was running that. I felt like I was the only one that ran up there the first half of the race, then everyone started going up there. But on the restarts, the outside lane was the place to be because you could put that guy on the inside down on the apron, kind of make him vulnerable a little bit, and the outside lane kind of freight trained on the restarts. But yeah, it's just working lines, saving tires, and keeping the car clean.
We've been in a stretch of races these past few where you haven't had a lot of breathing room, and that doesn't really change going into next week. Maybe even less breathing room at a bigger track. We move on to Talladega next week. We've asked every other driver's perspective on that big wild card race. Is there any positives you can take away, or are you just going to go out there and see what comes to you and see what you can get?
I'm either hit or miss with Dega, so it's just a matter of trying to stay there to the end. I've been hanging out with Caribou Racing during the race, so hopefully I can work with them come Dega and just hopefully have a group to work with there. Because if I don't, then I'm kind of just going to ride around, try and qualify up front, stay up in the front as much as I can so I don't lose the draft. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to Dega all that much, but it's one of those tracks where you have to really work it. So yeah, looking forward to it, I guess.
Well, before we get to that, we celebrate a top 3 finish for you. Sponsors, shout out, who makes it happen for that 17 car?
I want to thank you guys at LSR for putting on the race. I always love going back and watching it. Dragantech.com for giving me the cars every week of the different paint schemes. Thanks to John Draganetti and RSR Chevette, and Dead Zone Racing for having me on as a team driver. So yeah.
And there you have it, your top 3 finisher. Michael, congratulations. Hope to maybe be talking to you at the end of next week at Dega.
Thanks. Looking for a win next week.
All right, there you have it, Evan. Top 3 for Michael Grillia. A whole lot of battling. Like I mentioned, he started third, finished third, but there was a whole lot of ups and downs in between that for a lot of these drivers, especially down there towards the end of it. It got really hectic, but that's Richmond. That's short track racing, and we move on to next week at Dega, where it can be even more hectic and maybe even sometimes 4 wide there at that track. So always looking forward to that.
And again, as always, big thanks to our top 3 finishers, Brandon Bowie and Jeff Friedars, Michael Grillia, for lending us some of their time this evening. Chris, it was a Richmond race. I mean, just like Bristol was a Bristol race and Martinsville was a Martinsville race. I don't think that we didn't see anything that we didn't expect to see. Listen, I love anytime we can get a late race battle, but this is just the kind of a race that brings to it. Thought maybe it was going to be the Spencer Preet story, the pit strategy rules over all, but at the end of the day, elbows had to go up, and Brandon Bowie won the fight, coming out on top. Got a little bit physical at times, but I think you heard all of the drivers kind of reciprocate the same thought that, you know, a little bit of contact is to be expected at Richmond, and it was a great race and great to see Bowie get his first win on 2018.
Bet it was, Evan. You know, seeing Bowie come into this race, especially with a decent start to the season, and keep building, especially with a new team like he mentioned in his interview, Evan, and to finally get that win early, get that monkey off his back, be able to focus more, and get those points rolling in is really good for that team.
Of course, we stick with the theme of unpredictability. Prior to Backlund, we head to Talladega. Let's not forget, after Dega, we go to Dover. And if Dover was on its own anywhere else in the schedule, we'd be talking about the Monster Mile and how dangerous of a racetrack it is. It's probably going to be the most tame race we've had in about 2 months by the time we get there. So we can't forget about Dover on the horizon. But of course, Talladega next Monday night right here on LSRTV and iRacing Live. If you saw Daytona, you know, you're going to want to buckle up and tune in for that one.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a great race, and you said it. It's going to be another race of unpredictability. And to speak that theme, we've had a lot of unpredictability so far throughout this season. We've got 5 different winners in the first 7 races, and I think we're going to stick with that theme. I think a 6th different winner is very, very likely next week at Talladega, as that is a track where anybody has a chance to win. If you're in the draft with less than 10 laps to go, you have a shot at it. And even if you're not in the draft, you might still have a shot at it, because the big one could come out, and if you end up being away from it and not getting caught up in it, you could end up being the guy that comes out on top when it's all said and done. It's going to be a very exciting race for us. I think the drivers, however, after this stretch are going to be about wore out completely, because they had 3 straight short tracks, and now they're going to a 2.66 mile super speedway. They're probably going to be about fed up with this stretch when it's all said and done.
Once they get to Dover, there is some relief on the horizon. A couple of off weeks at an all-star race means that they have some time to catch their breath, but no pun intended, it is full throttle forward for the next couple of weeks. That being said, that's it for us here tonight from the Richmond Raceway. On behalf of our entire team at L.L.C Racing L.L.C, the folks behind the scenes, Laura Lawson, DJ Line, everybody on the team who makes it happen, and for the team tonight, myself, Evan Pasoko, Brian Backlund, Chris Murdoch, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, we want to thank you for tuning in, and of course, congratulate Brandon Bowie, your race winner here tonight from Richmond. Plenty more L.L.C Racing action coming to you at LSRTV and iRacing Live throughout the week, so you don't have to wait till next Monday night to get your sim racing fix. We'll be back on the air coming up with the Cars Esport Tour this Wednesday. Coverage begins at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Friday nights, the Super Speedway Cup Series back in action as they continue the march towards a championship. All of that starts at 9, and at the same time on Saturday night, 9 o'clock is when our doubleheader gets kicked off with the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modifieds, followed by the USR Trucks at 10 o'clock. That's what's coming up here on LSRTV. You can find the full broadcast schedule on our website at livesracing.com, and follow us on social media, facebook.com/LSRTV official, and on Twitter at LSRTV. That's it here tonight. This series will be back next Monday from Talladega. That race and every race of the 2018 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC, can be found right here on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. Until next time, good night from Richmond.